It's hard to believe it's been 10 years since the original smart car came to American shores back in 2008. Now, in that time period, American car tastes have really changed over the years, especially when you look at the microcar segment. However, that didn't stop Smart from introducing an all-new version for 2016. And today I've got a 2018 Smart Fortwo Prime Cabriolet, the electric drive version, which actually is the only way you can get a Smart for 2018. And we're going to see if the smart car fad is still alive and well in this little teeny tiny shoebox. So when this car first came out, it was essentially known as a fad car. Americans were really obsessed with teeny tiny cars built for the urban environment where you could literally park everywhere. And the Smart is actually the smallest new car in America that you can buy today, and as it was back then, this car is really small, even by today's modern car standards where everything has gotten so big. You can see for 2016, this is actually in its third generation, although Americans will see it as a second generation. We never got the first generation model, which first came out back in 1998. The front end has been completely redone, but it's still instantly recognizable as a smart car. You have LED accented daytime running lights at the front, which are available. They're standard on this Prime model. Halogen headlights, however, are the only headlights available. There's no bi-xenon, there's no LED. You have a incandescent turn signal here and then a fog light down here, along with the kind of bubbly grill intakes here, which actually doesn't even let air in because it doesn't have a gas engine, so it doesn't need the actual air to let it in. Now the hood, you can see, is really small, and the car has a relatively tall appearance to it. Actually, what gives the Smart such great interior space is considering how tall it is, even by small car standards. Now, at the sides here, you can see there are 15-inch wheels that were optional on my particular tester. Smart even offers a sport package, which will color coordinate the wheels if you guys would like. They're wrapped in 165 series tires. I have not seen 165s. It's like a go-kart, and you have disc brakes in the front, drums at the rear. Now, to give you a perspective on how small this car is, the wheelbase is 73.5 inches long. In comparison, a Honda Accord and Toyota Camry is about that long in terms of their widths, and the overall length is around 106 inches long, which is about the same lengthwise as the wheelbase for like a Honda Civic. So this is a car that's very small. However, it's still illegal to park this car perpendicular or parallelly against the road in most countries, the United States including, just because it's still a little bit too long for that purpose. Now at the back, you can see it's got LED combination rear taillights, completely redesigned look from the previous generation. And then surprisingly, this car also has parking sensors and a backup camera. Because it's such a small car, you really need features like that, but it's good safety measures. Now, to open up the rear tailgate, it actually opens kind of like a truck where the little area here flips down. And unfortunately, it's not damped, but Smart says that you can put up to like 225 pounds on this, so you can't sit on it, which is great for tailgating. Now, obviously, you can't really get to your stuff back here very well. So instead, there's a little tab here you kind of pull up on both sides, and it kind of allows you to lift this up. Now, Smart says it has around 8.9 cubic feet of space in this Cabrio version. It drops to like 6.7 if you guys take off the removable roof panels. Now, speaking of which, this car is an electric car, so of course it'll come with a level 1 charger. Smart's is actually very compact. I'm really surprised because the cord here is kind of coiled up, which is good because there's really no cargo space in here. Now, if you want to plug the vehicle in, the little charging port is right here, kind of where the old gas nozzle was, and you just stick it in here like any other electric car. When it's on this level 1 charger, it takes about 16.5 hours. If you guys have the level 2 charger, it'll bring that down to about 2.5 hours. So as you approach the diminutive little smart car, you can see here, it really just stands out, especially in this black and green exterior color combination. Here's the key fob for the vehicle. The key fob itself doesn't resemble anything that you see from any other Mercedes product currently, although it might remind me of like a Mitsubishi key or maybe even an old Mercedes product. It's a switchblade style key. Push button start and Smart intelligent access is not available. Instead, you just have your traditional unlock, lock, and then trunk open and then panic. Now, as you approach the smart car, you can see here, the door handle is pretty high up. It's also covered in plastic. It has a traditional keyhole there. To unlock it again, just touch the lock button here. To unlock it, just touch the button here like you would on any other car. Now, opening the door and looking at the interior will really surprise you. Smart has done a really great job with kind of packaging the interior. It's got a ton of interior space in here for considering how small it is. The seats, they're wrapped in a leatherette material. This is not real leather. This is optional that you get on the Prime trim that my tester is. And then it makes a pretty interesting first impression. I think the space is what really surprises people a lot. Now, when you get inside, it's not as low to the ground as I thought it would be. So getting in, it doesn't really require you to kind of fall into the interior like some competitors or some other cars. But when you shut the door, it doesn't sound all that solid. It actually is a little bit tinny sounding, so that surprises me considering this is a Mercedes German product, although it is built in France. Now, to start the vehicle up, just stick the key in the ignition here because it doesn't have any push button start, and then turn it until it clicks. And then it'll say ready in the instrument panel. There's no starter noise, of course, because this is an electric car. There's no actual gas engine to start up. And then looking at the rest of this interior here, let's talk about the materials, because this car is a pretty inexpensive car when you look at the base model. And the interior kind of shows that. It's got this interesting woven cloth material that's hard touch on the dash. It's kind of covering the entire dash. The vents here, they're plastic. They feel a little cheap as you kind of turn them, which I was kind of expecting. Over here on the door panels, it's hard plastic as well, which is what I was expecting again. There's an aluminum door handle here, which is surprising to me, although it sounds a little bit cheap when you start using it. It's hard touch plastic right here as well, which is really disappointing because this is where I'm going to put my elbows to rest. The window is one touch automatic down and auto up for both, so that surprised me, although there is only two windows. This switchgear here looks like it came off of an old Ford product, which is really interesting. And then when you look at the center display here, you can see it's got a small LCD helper screen where you can change, your different menus and different sources right there. It has, your eco score, you have your range, your consumption, energy flow, which is very important with this type of vehicle. I basically left it on the speedometer most of the time. That replaced the tachometer that was on the gas model, which, as you guys know, Smart doesn't offer gas. Instead, it tells you how much percentage of power you're using when you floor it, and then there's your battery percentage. Think of it as a fuel or charge meter for the battery. The steering wheel itself, it doesn't tilt or telescope, which really confused me. I'm kind of annoyed actually, because I wish that I could make the steering wheel come a little bit closer to me and then move it up slightly. The steering wheel itself is surprisingly nice. I like the leather that they put on the stitching here. It's got, your usual buttons for your audio, your cruise control. No adaptive cruise control in this car. There was a time you couldn't even get cruise control on a Smart. Now, my tester has an optional JBL and upgraded head unit display here. I believe this is a 7-inch display. It's relatively nice. The navigation is TomTom, as you can see here. It's a $1,700 option. The graphics, they're kind of what you expect that you get on an aftermarket GPS system. It's a little bit slow. I would probably end up skipping this, although it does include a 6-speaker JBL sound system that you get with this package, which does sound pretty decent considering how small this car is. Going to the home screen here, you can see there's your traditional home screen. It's got your audio functions here, lots of bright colors. One thing I don't like is this car is missing satellite radio, and it's missing Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which is really annoying. Instead, you just have your traditional Bluetooth system here. When you go back to the menu function here, go there to menu, you can see here you have your vehicle services system. If you go to vehicle, you can see your eco score, your electric drive. This particular flow right here, the energy flow, is relatively cool. It shows you, where the power is going in the electric motor to the wheels, or when you're regen braking, it'll go back to the electric motor. It's a pretty basic system, so I'm not really surprised to see, not a great infotainment system in the Smart car. Now, when you put it in reverse, you can see no backup camera in the screen. Instead, Smart puts it in the actual rear view camera or rear view mirror, which is nice. It doesn't have trajectory. It's a pretty basic backup camera. I'm surprised this car even has a backup camera. It has rear parking sensors too. I mean, this is a really teeny tiny car. Down here you can see it has single zone automatic climate control with a rather interesting way to adjust it. Actually, I thought it was manual at first, but it is an automatic. The cup holders here are really small. For perspective, here's my iPhone 10. It doesn't fit in this actual cup holder here, which is really stupid, and this will really hold some small drinks. Instead, there's a little separate container cubby here where you could probably just, there we go, put your phone in there if you'd like. But I would probably see a lot of people forgetting to actually, that they left their phone in that particular cubby. There's a better holder over here that'll actually fit your phone, another cup holder basically. It's got an armrest here that folds down. It doesn't actually open up. This is an option on my tester, and then your USB port is there. The actual SD card for the navigation is there. Another power outlet. You have a traditional handbrake here. And then the gear lever, you can see, is really interesting looking. It just has, park, reverse, neutral, and drive. Pretty simple. This eco button here, if you push it, it adds like 7 miles of range. This is with the car fully charged. It's ready to go, or the computer's telling me 77 miles, even though the EPA only says 57 miles. There's additional storage right here, which is pretty good. The glove compartment is tiny, is basically what I expected. And then the seats, the leatherette basically feels like the VTEX leatherette you get, you know, in some Mercedes products. They're not particularly comfortable, a little bit flat, and it's not very soft. Now, this model being the convertible, you can see here, you push this button here, it's not one touch, so you have to actually hold it. And you can see the canvas soft top will kind of slide back, which is nice. And then it'll kind of stop right there. And then if you push the button again, it'll actually lower the back portion. Now keep in mind, the back portion, when that is down, you cannot open the trunk, which is a little bit annoying. You can also remove these little rails here and store them in the trunk for that full top-down experience, which is good. I mean, the convertible version definitely adds that open, airy feeling. And I think the interior is relatively, you know, cute, just like the exterior, but the amount of space you get in here is really what will surprise a lot of you. This car could easily fit, you know, a 6-footer relatively comfortably. It's just the seats aren't the most comfortable to sit on after a couple of hours. So in case you guys are wondering what's going on underneath the hood of the Smart car, don't expect to find an actual hood latch release underneath here. The hood doesn't open from a latch portion. Instead, follow me over to the front. I'll show you guys how to open this little teeny tiny hood. Now, first of all, the hood is plastic. This car is designed to be very lightweight. However, the batteries do add a fair amount of weight. Instead, you have to pull on this little tab here, pull it out. There's 2 of them. And then the hood itself, literally, when I tell you it's plastic, I mean it's actually plastic. Seriously, I've never seen anything like that in a production car, but hey, you gotta save some weight. There's nothing to see underneath here aside from the fact that you have access to your fluids, the conventional 12-volt battery and whatnot. The electric motor lives underneath the floor of the car, basically underneath your butts when you guys are driving it. And it's a 60 kilowatt-hour electric motor system. It makes about 80 horsepower and 118 pound-feet of torque. It has a 17.6 kilowatt-hour battery, lithium-ion high voltage battery. Now, the EPA rates the MPGe at 102 MPGe. That really doesn't mean much to a lot of you, especially if you don't shop electric cars. Just keep in mind that it's about 10 mpg lower than this car's main competitor, which is the Fiat 500e. And then the EPA rates this car to go about 58, 57 miles on a full charge. Smart says it'll go 70 to 80 miles on a charge. Now, if you're keeping score, that's literally half of what you get on like a Nissan Leaf or a Hyundai Ioniq. So I would love to see Smart increase the range. However, this car is really tiny, so I'm not really surprised. Smarts are all rear-wheel drive. This is not a front-wheel drive vehicle or an all-wheel drive vehicle. It all goes out through a single-speed automatic transmission, no gears. Of course, this is an electric car. It weighs around 2,500 pounds because the battery adds about 500 pounds of weight. Let's get out on the road and see how it performs, shall we? So I have to say, I drive a lot of different cars in this line of work, and the Smart Fortwo electric basically takes the cake for most silly-feeling car that I've driven. The best aspect about this car really is the fact that it can turn on the dime. So with a 22.8 inch or foot turning radius, I could basically make a U-turn like this in a 1-lane road if I wanted to. And it almost feels like it has rear wheel steering. So this little parking lot right here, look at this. Look at this teeny tiny parking lot. And I can basically just go around in a frickin' circle like this until I get so dizzy that I have to stop. And that's probably the coolest aspect of the Smart car. If you live in an urban environment, this car makes perfect sense. So let's get out on the road here and see how the rest of the car feels. And the fact that it's so spacious, but relatively quick when you put your foot down. Because remember, this is an electric car. There is no gas engine. Smart has killed the gas engine options in America for 2017. And this car has 118 pound-feet of torque when you first put your foot down. So that's so much low-end torque. This thing feels like an overgrown golf cart. It's absolutely insane. And because it's so small, seeing out of this car is so damn easy. I mean, I could basically touch the back of the car from this side if I wanted to. And you know what? It actually has a pretty good view out of the road. I mean, you sit up higher versus other cars, regular cars. The 15-inch wheels are diminutive, as you saw, and it just is such an interesting car to drive on a daily basis. So the Cabrio version definitely makes the whole driving experience even more pleasant. I mean, I've got the wind in my hair, there's lots of light coming in, it makes the interior feel even more open and airy, and it's such a fun little car. I mean, especially on these kind of roads. I'm driving along my local neighborhood here. The road is relatively tight and narrow. You know, it's just so easy to get in and around, you know, the city. And if you are looking for a super tight parking spot or just trying to turn on a dime, you know, make that U-turn because you're lost, this is such a great car. Now, one thing that it does happen is the ride quality does suffer a little bit. I mean, this car is literally as long as most of, you know, of a lot of compact cars' wheelbases. The overall length is the same size as like a Honda Civic, as I said. So you do feel a lot of the bumps, which can make this a little bit, you know, cheap feeling. And also, as in the city, you tend to deal with really crappy road quality, a lot of potholes and a lot of imperfections here and there. So you do feel a lot of the bumps with a smart car. They could, you know, I would love to see them, you know, improve the ride quality, but with a car that's this small, you can't really, you know, improve it all that much, you know, without actually increasing the actual overall size of this thing. But let's close the sunroof here. Or actually, you can drop it down completely if you'd like there, and it actually makes the wind come in a little bit more. But let me close the sunroof here, because I'm going to take the smart car to an environment where it wasn't actually designed to excel in. Let's go out onto the interstate. I'm going to take this thing out onto 66 westbound, where the speed limit is 55 miles an hour. And this is a pretty damn small car. I'm going to see what it's like if you occasionally have to take it out on the highway. That's not what it was built for, but I imagine owners of this car occasionally do need to go out on the highway. So we're going to find out what it's like out there. So with so much torque, you know, this car feels relatively peppy off the line, and Smart says it'll get to 60 in about 11.5 seconds, which is slow by the numbers, but so with all that electric motor torque, it kind of just shoves you back in the seat. Where you feel it lacking in power is this situation here. It only has 80 horsepower, so my foot is to the floor here. But you know what? It actually gets up to 65 miles an hour quite well. And you can hear there is some wind noise because of this canvas soft top, and I'm having to definitely talk a little bit louder to compensate for that. And you know, on this smooth highway, the ride quality isn't actually bad until I get over that bump there, and it feels like it's like got some air there, even though it really didn't. But man, this thing is bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. But getting on the highway here, you know what? Visibility is equally good. You practically feel like you're driving an overgrown shoebox. And people out on the highway, they stare at you like you're crazy because they're like, what in the heck are you doing out here on the interstate? But I'm actually going almost 70 miles an hour here, and it's not bad. Now, Smart says this car's top speed is 81 miles an hour. So I'm gonna get into a little road here and see if that actually is the case. They've limited it, they've governed it because the range would just be even worse than it actually is if they allowed it to go even faster than that. Small cars like this aren't really known for incredibly high top speeds, but this feels relatively stable and secure out on the interstate like this. Of course, we're on a lot smoother pavement, and it's just a little bit more pleasant to drive. In terms of the handling, the steering on this car is really light and numb. There's no sport button here or anything that makes it a little heavier, but the car feels a little tippy. That's what I'm definitely noticing. It feels a little tippy, but let's get it out here and put our foot down and see how fast I can get it to go. 81 miles an hour top speed, huh? There's 82, 83, 84, 85. Okay, so it will go faster than the 81 mile per hour top speed that Smart is claiming. So for some reason, this one just doesn't have the governor on it, but you can hear the wind noise gets really loud at those speeds. The car's steering gets a little bit numb and light. I wouldn't recommend going that fast, but you know, you can take it out on these highway jaunts, and the Smart can definitely handle it. It's just very, very loud in here, so I wouldn't want to be, you know, on a longer trip for that long in these kind of conditions. But the seats also, I find them to be flat. They're not very comfortable. Again, it's an inexpensive car. The range in this car, now the computer shows me a 77 mile range. The EPA only rates it at 57 miles. Right now it's showing 61. If I put it into its eco mode here, it'll increase it to 67. But you really feel like this car is kind of dragged. When you put it in eco mode, like every other electric car, it almost feels like you're towing something behind you. Because when I put my foot down, it's to the floor right now and it's barely accelerating. It's just really, really bad. You got to take it out of eco mode and then it feels a little bit better, but then of course you lose that range. When you turn on the climate control, it also will sap range like around 7 miles. So with very limited range, you're not going to go far. And I think it's limited because this car's battery system is very small, because there's just nowhere to put a car, the battery systems in this car. The batteries add like 500 pounds of heft to this already teeny tiny car. You know, and it's definitely lacking in the range department. I don't know how much Smart could really improve it, but the fact that they got rid of the gas engine in this car, they're definitely limiting its appeal to people who literally just live in city environments. Ooh, you gotta slow down a lot on these exit ramps because these teeny tiny 165 tires and the literally numb steering, oh my God, it just feels like it's gonna roll over. So I'm gonna slow down a lot because I don't like the way it feels when you do that. And then trying to get up to speed here. No noise, just that electric motor whirring noise that you guys are used to with electric cars if you've driven them a lot. And my foot is to the floor here. And there is 60 miles an hour. Okay. I mean, you just gotta be a little bit patient, but man, it really saps the range. Before I left on this trip, which I believe we've gone a total of like maybe 9 miles, it showed 75 miles. Now it's showing 58 miles. Again, if you're gonna drive like a jerk an electric car, you better be prepared to find an electric charging station, a plug, relatively sooner than what this car's range would suggest. This is kind of more in line with what the EPA is suggesting. But you guys saw, as a city car, this thing makes complete sense. It's so much fun to drive around town. On the highway, you're gonna be pushed around by bigger cars. You're gonna be dealing with the uncomfortable, you know, bumpy ride, the noisy interior, and the fact that you feel like you're going to die if you got into an accident with all these big trucks and big vans and big SUVs that basically crowd the roads of American streets. So when Smart first dropped off this car, I really wanted to not like it. I really wanted to just call it a shoebox car that was too cute and just not right for American roads. But after spending a week with the Smart Fortwo electric convertible version, I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised. It's a really fun car to drive that definitely still attracts a lot of attention wherever you take it. As you guys saw, the fact that you can make U-turns on a dime, the fact that it is relatively roomy on the inside, and it's just so easy to park. If you guys live in the city and don't venture out into suburbia or the open road, this is the perfect city runabout car. And really, Smart just needs to kind of address the range and the really bouncy ride quality for me to give it this my full recommendation. But what's it going to cost to put a Smart Fortwo in your driveway if you guys are actually interested in this car? Well, the gas model, as I said, was discontinued for 2017, which makes this car a lot more expensive. The old gas model started at around like $19,000. This now starts at a tick under $24,000 for a base coupe version. The convertible adds about $2,700 extra to the price. This particular one being the Prime is a little bit more because it has the leather red seats, the heated seats, and then a few other upgrades inside. It starts at $29,100, which I know sounds like a lot of money. However, this car's main competitor, the Fiat 500e, also starts at $32,000. And keep in mind, this is a full electric car, and they're going to start around $30,000. Thankfully, the federal government will come in and kind of save a little bit of money for you. You get a $7,500 tax credit if you guys buy one of these, and Smart has some crazy lease deals, which come in at around $139 per month to start. This one will probably be around $200 a month. All in, this one, because it has a couple of options, stickers for $32,000, which sounds like a lot of money. Just keep in mind, most people are going to end up leasing one of these. And if you guys really need the perfect city car, this one is still the smallest new car you can buy that turns on a dime, that has, you know, all the practicality you could use in the actual city. But I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2018 Smart Fortwo Prime electric drive. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest videos. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next review.